All right, thank you so much, and many thanks for joining us on our program, African Discourse, on independent television, Benin City. My name is Evan Sunukogie. Well, we will start by saying that we are at peace in Africa, and of course, we also pray to God Almighty that the peace that we're experiencing now, that you and I are enjoying now, it should continue. Well, I'm talking in relationship to what is going on in Niger, talking about the coup that Nigerians are, ongoing, that is ongoing in Niger now. And we understand that the deadlock, that's the deadlock that the deadline that ECOWAS gave actually elapsed on Sunday. A lot of people actually thought that if by Sunday nothing was done, if the ousted president of Niger was not released, then of course ECOWAS won't have any other option than to go on a full military strike on the military junta's personnel in Niger. But we thank God today that that is not the situation now. Yes, today on the program Africa Discuss, we're going to be looking at Niger coup and of course ECOWAS deadline, how it has elapsed, and a very big question, what next? Just like what I said, that a lot of persons actually thought that since the deadline elapsed on Sunday, then of course today by Monday, ECOWAS and its troops would have sent their soldiers to the Republic of Niger. But that is not the situation now, so we thank God for that. Well, to look at all this this afternoon, we are so privileged to have eminent personalities here, people that knows their onions when it comes to internal politics and also international politics too. Please join me to welcome Mr. Evans Inobahai Osunde, a politician, particularly in Ward 10 in Lagos. So welcome to the program African Discourse. And also to our astute lecturer from the University of Benin, talking about Mr. Neville Obahedo, is also on the program this afternoon. Neville, you're welcome to the program African Discourse.
Good afternoon. Thank you for having me. Good afternoon, listeners and viewers at home.
Okay. All right, so we're also expecting the renowned Nuruddin Asoluji, an international political analyst and also a lecturer with the University of Benin. So when he comes, he's going to be joining us as we look at the issue today. Well, let's quickly see some of the major headlines that may be making rounds now that we interest you. Some of the major headlines now in Africa. Well, we have the very first one that has to say that heartbreak for Nigeria as England reached quarterfinals on penalties. We saw that a few hours ago, whereby the England team had to beat the Super Falcons 4-2. Very painful how our dear Super Falcons had how they have lost out from the tournament. So heartbreak for Nigeria as England reached quarterfinals on penalties, beating Nigeria 4-2. Then also we have what is going on in Senegal, where we're told that the main Senegalese opposition, talking about Ousmane Sonko, hospitalized after 1 week on hunger strike. So that's one major headlines, on the African news as it breaks this afternoon. Then also we have Niger closes its airspace as ECOWAS deadline for coup reversal expires. That will be the major talking point on the program this afternoon. Niger closes its airspace as ECOWAS deadline for coup reversal expires. What is the reversal now? The reversal is that the ousted president, talking about Mohamed Bazoum, should be released unconditionally. That is the request of the ECOWAS bloc. And they gave the deadline that if by Sunday Mohamed Bazoum is not released, of course, ECOWAS won't have any option than to do a full military action, do a full military strike into this situation. So a big thank God that we are not experiencing that now. So Niger closes airspace as ECOWAS deadline for coup reversal expires. Then also too, we also have thousands in Niger rally in support for coup leaders. That's also a major headline that is breaking now. So if we can see that picture, or maybe just roll the video a little bit. Thousands in Niger rally in support of coup leaders. So you can see that thousands of Nigerians, the coup plot That's the head of the military Niger. So thousands support for coup leaders. Perhaps why this coup, those days when we were agreeing the coup, a lot of supports military coup. We are seeing it now, it's coming out to support military, particularly in Africa. So a point we're going to be taking off from Africa Discourse. Then lastly, migrants die in shipwreck. That's also see the migrant teams of the shipwreck, at least 14 migrants shipwreck. These are some of the major headlines following at this time program Africa Discourse. So, ladies and gentlemen, about rolling on this discussion, let us quickly asking our guest because as part of ECOWAS, talking about President Bola Tinubu, a lot of persons that his rates at stake. I mean, Nigeria was expected the troop to ease the ousted who is led some form of incarceration. Just also, we understand. Failed of its National Assembly. With that, why some other of different opinion. Let me come to Neville. The whole situation, what the talks is making, that the ECOWAS at stake, and also likely going to be occasion if after the deadline had a full-fledged military in Niger. Let's start from
the first is those who occupy should by the of Nigeria. You realize that the first speech that ever made when it was at the ECOWAS, and part of that was that was added over to him by there was no provision for subsidy in it. It was gone. He just made the state. Before they left the stadium, petroleum marketers at poor price because those in leadership positions, their statement, their split to change and the dynamics of they should be before they make such statements. See now. Nigeria have been leaving adjective to qualify the state. That statement, as of every other thing, in a difficult. As for the first time, there are ECOWAS heads of state be president before him, secretary, some are doing their third. Not making a statement, decision. You need to in-house consultation, not making a general statement. The president, Tinubu, Guinea-Bissau requirement, President's Day, and he got about grants of ECOWAS, referring to all countries in West Africa, government of Mali, like Guinea, neighboring country to Guinea-Bissau, statement there. And I not thought through that statement written by one of his speechwriters. His own was just to occupy leadership position by the action of their own trusses. Addis Ababa, and made the same statement in speech. He said, "He said no to military coup, which shall be tolerant." Or the military coup. A lot of people I see people news, they will just be discussing issues. It can be sub-regional issues, it can be global. They look at it from a very narrow, that actually holistic that are trapped in that. Talking about ECOWAS coup in Niger, 3 options. The last option is a military house. Yeah. That is the aspiration of the 7th of we shall to implement the other actions like closure of the and lastly, military option. Yeah. The statement of the statement is not that Sunday then lead other West Africa one invade Niger. Okay, let me pause. It was not the statement of the statement. Leaders who took that statement, this English. And you have to circumstances upon which that statement. The general conclusion is to go to Niger. That's not the term. The Africa we in Burkina Faso in Mali, and the fact that this is now like the region Francophone countries, like Niger Republic, they have Nigeria. Just the list is not nipped in the bud. COUP in Nigeria. Okay, Neville, I'll pause you to my brother Evans. There is in the political space in Africa, this is about the country that is making a caution. Now, evolution. The different takeover that we're having in the 60s, now military coming in space was marked with attitude. But this time, people are happy. These new revolutions, as it were.
I've continued the commotions, bring resentment. The citizens think to liberate them. You recall that I've become instead of an election. Some cycle themselves. The people are just the whole situation, and one should come in and them. All issues started from Mali, went to Burkina Faso. We are in Niger. But the video you just showed, from the people, happy. If the was doing well, I don't have this, like you said, we used to have a lot of resentment because when the mighty, and they do imprisoning anywhere. But now I just seen all those that have happened. The people now still the media we enjoy in Africa is we keep and have nothing to offer. Are tired and want, people someone say no, this is
okay. All right, so take one more time now so that it situates our discussion this afternoon. We talked about that coming into Niger is probably, but we've heard of Nigeria had to cut to Niger, and of our sanctions have not only from Nigeria but from some other neighboring countries. I mean, we also saw to the National Assembly to the release of Nigeria to join the troop. I want.
This is not the first time there will be coups in the coup or program that Nigerian armed forces. Period of tenure of his administration. Captain Valentine of Sierra Leone. ECOWAS gave him to leave the restore the government of President Joseph Moa to power. Of the government was not restored, and then Sierra Leone, junta leader, and democracy was restored. Number two, of President Buhari, the immediate Buhari, of the contested election president. He congratulated and said he was going to hand over. The period of the handing over, he was not going to hand over. Troops, foot soldiers like Air Force, and they went to Banjul for his and the man and traveled to on self-exile. Civilian government was installed. If Tinubu is coming up to say West African leaders to military welcome development. Two, it is a means of this military coup. It's a message to our leaders. The president that changed the constitution and wanted to remain.
Yeah.
That is a coup that wanted to manipulate in power. In the case of Mali and in the case of, apart from the fact that of contagion, it's like a contagious disease now that all those countries in that area. Yeah. We can also use what foreign influence and economic to explain in these areas. Number one, there is uranium that France, which they can use for nuclear power development. They can use to repair to produce microchips of computers and telephone, and so on. Now, we hear, and it is true, that Russia, the Russian Federation under President Vladimir Putin, entered into agreement with these soldiers and the Wagner group, the Wagner military, private military, yes, to overthrow the government of Niger, so that they cannot control the uranium in that country. And we have seen videos of the Wagner leader congratulating the military junta of Niger, and willing to assist the man to remain in power. We have also seen the military leaders of Burkina Faso, of Mali, and of Guinea say that any attempt to forcefully remove General Abdurrahmani Chiani, from power in Niger Republic will be like a direct affront on their own countries. They want to protect their own fellow military man, their own fellow francophone military leader. Now, what Nigeria should do, because Nigeria is one of the countries that's having the largest border with Niger. Yeah. And that border was created by the colonial masters. If you go to the border between Niger and Nigeria, it's like you finding it difficult to know the boundary between Isio and Oluku, and the other Oluku or the other community before them. Egosa and Oluku. Yes, it will be difficult. Yeah. That is how it is difficult. But Nigeria know that is the boundary, and they put maybe their custom, their immigration there. They intermarry. It's not like what is happening in Ukraine and in Russia. The Russians, they married the Ukrainians. You see at the boundary area, you see Ukrainians on this side, you see Russians on this side. Now, Nigeria should be careful in the way they handle the issue.
Okay, because let me pause you so that I'll bring Mr. Osunde in. And now, from your own point of view now, it appears that you are situating the coup in the Sahel region now, that we've been saying for quite some time now, about the 7th or the 8th country now in the Sahel region, whereby the coup has taken place. You are situating on external forces, the fight between the West and, of course, the East. That's the way you put it now. But Mr. Osunde, some people will say that the economic issues now in some of these African countries, particularly in Niger, has also not been promising. Take, for example, what do you make of a situation whereby a sitting president is ousted, and, of course, the citizens troop out in jubilation? Can we still say that it is as a result of some external forces, or simply the fact that economically that president has not been trying, so to say?
Yeah, like I said, our leaders have not done well. They've continued to embezzle public funds that are meant for roads, for schools, for healthcare. They are not there. So these people are tired of these leaders, and that is why you see the jubilation that you just saw in that clip you played just now. Even when you go around, you see some people even saying, even in our country, that they now prefer the military to come in, which I think is not it's never been the right solution. But what would they do? When most countries in Africa now, you see the people go to the polls and vote their leaders, but they are rigged, and the old cargoes, well, so to say, keep recycling themselves. Yeah. So I think the people are fed up. There's a parable that when you push the goat to the wall, it will come back and attack you. That is what we are seeing playing out right now. Okay. The people are angry. They are hungry. Hungry people are always very angry people. And for me personally, I've never seen a military intervention as a resolution, because when you check these other countries that have had the same issues, they are not also doing better than they were under the democratic elected presidents. So I think it is high time Africans start electing credible and people who actually know how to get the job done. So until we get that right and we get credible people who monitor our elections and allow the people's mandate to actually stand, who keep having issues like this in other countries. I mean, West Africa, that was what happened too in North Africa at the time. You see the people also coming out to support a military coup. So it is not just a West African thing right now. I think it's an Africa issue right now, because our leaders have to start standing up to be counted. Okay. Otherwise, we'll have citizens supporting coups like this.
All right, so the program is still African Discourse on Independent Television, and we are looking at the situation in Niger, whereby the whole world is, pointing to right now. Niger is a next-door neighbor to Nigeria, and we're told that it borders Nigeria with about 5 to 6 states, and that's why it's very, very worrisome for most Nigerians to know that ECOWAS is willing to send its troops to kind of destabilize the situation in Niger. And when we say ECOWAS, definitely we're talking about Nigeria, because as we speak now, Nigerian president, our own president, Bola Ahmed Tinubu, is the chairman of ECOWAS. And there's no way ECOWAS can send its troop without the Nigerian troop also being part of it. But I think respite has come that way now, because the president had to write to the National Assembly a few days ago, and the National Assembly rejected the inclusion of Nigerian troop into ECOWAS troop that should go to Niger to unsettle the military junta in Niger. Now, we're going to take a short pause now, and when we return, we're going to be talking along some other headlines as it relates to the military situation in Niger, where we have Niger's military rulers ask for help from Russia group known as the Wagner Group, one group that has succeeded in, taking almost all parts of Africa where you have military juntas. The big question is, what is really the interest of the Wagner organization in this military takeovers in Africa? Then also look at ECOWAS has sparked anxiety. That's ECOWAS now sparking anxiety in northern parts of Nigeria, just like what I told you a while ago, that prior to now, when the deadline that ECOWAS gave was so close, a lot of persons became unsettled. As a matter of fact, some of our brothers outside the shores of the country had to call to actually know what is going on in the country, because it was well believed that Nigeria was going into war with Niger, but that is not the situation now. Then we'll also be able to look at Niger Republic cuts off ties with Nigeria and other countries. We saw that on our major headlines a while ago, where we were told that air flights have been shut down in Niger. Niger doesn't want to receive air flights from Nigeria, and also Nigeria is also not willing to send air flights to Nigeria. We'll take a short pause now. When we return, we'll take a look at all these key issues as the program goes on. Please stay tuned. All right, thank you one more time. The program is still Africa Discourse on Independent Television. Yeah, the topic we are looking at today is the military takeover in Niger, and also the rider talking about ECOWAS giving a deadline, and that deadline elapsing. It elapsed yesterday. So what next? What will be the next action now that ECOWAS is going to embark upon? And I still have my my analyst here, Mr. Osunde Evans in Obahai, and also Neville Obakedo still here with us now. Now, Mr. Neville, let's look at what the ECOWAS we do now. The deadline has elapsed yesterday. So from your own postulations, what do you think ECOWAS is going to do now? We have talked about other resolution attempts that some countries have been doing, cutting ties with Niger, Nigeria cutting power supply with Niger and some other things, like that. So what do you think ECOWAS will do now?
What I believe that ECOWAS will do now is to impose sanctions. The sanctions they said they want to impose on Niger Republic, apart from cutting relationship with Niger, the military junta, blocking the West Africa borders. They are going to impose other sanctions like travel restriction, like access of goods and services from these West African countries to Niger Republic. And maybe on the basis of the negotiations and the meetings that will take place between the military junta and ECOWAS, that last resort, which is the military force, will not be resorted to. Because if the military government is not stopped in Niger Republic, there are various factions in Niger that will be responsible for all the conflict of for religious fundamentalism there, the ethnic conflict there, and some other crisis of poverty and the rest of them. So if this is not done, and the message is not sent to others who will be plotting to overthrow their own government now, in no distant time, the whole West Africa sub-region will be a military government.
Now, when you say a message is not sent now, what exactly are you talking about, Neville?
The message I'm talking about is that the ECOWAS, one of the protocols of ECOWAS is that ECOWAS should say no to unconstitutional means of taking over government.
And they have said so.
Yes.
Of course, they
unconstitutional means of taking over government.
Yeah.
And one way to take over government through unconstitutional means is through military intervention. Number one. Number two is through
sanctions.
Yes, is through amendment of the constitution to remain in power. It's an unconstitutional means of trying to remain in power. And you know, if Niger is allowed to stay, be rest assured that the next place that they will be cool will be maybe Ivory Coast, because the president there, Alassane Ouattara, has amended the constitution to remain in power, contrary to what he was fighting Laurent Gbagbo for in that country. So ECOWAS need to go back to the drawing board to review its position on Niger. I support the first two options. The last option, they should have to wait until all the other options fail. If the sanctions are not using the necessary result, if the closure of the border because of the closeness of the relationship they have across borders is not allowing that closure of the border to work, I support that military option. Okay. Let the government of that man, of Mohamed Bazoum, be restored, because at the beginning of his second tenure, as the man was about to be sworn in, there was an attempted coup. The same people that wanted to overthrow the mass government, when the man won his second election that was said to be free and fair and transparent, the same people waited for the man to now overthrow his government. And that means they have been nursing the ambition of taking over this government for a very long time. And let me quickly add that all this crowd you are seeing, this one, they are rated crowd. I say rated crowd because in Nigeria here, we used to have a military dictator by the name General Sani Abacha. When he wanted to transmit from military dictator to civilian president, he came up with the philosophy of who the cap fits, let him wear it. He was not referring to people like Suharto of Indonesia. He was referring to some other George Washington in America and some other long-term dictators of their countries who later transmitted to civilian presidency. And then he organized a 3 million man march on Abuja.
Perhaps some people out there watching this program this afternoon may not agree with you that some of the crowds we've seen on the social media and just the clip that we rolled a while ago, it's a rented crowd. Yes. We are looking at something that has made an international impression.
Yes.
I mean, Mohamed Bazoum, that the outside president we're talking about now, that you are trying to support from what you're saying.
Yeah,
now.
the detained, to use the word, the detained,
popular among the
let me where it is not popular. The period events that took place in Mali, military intervention in Mali, almost on a week, we saw the people on the streets of protesting against their. We saw it. In late for military intervention, we are dissatisfied with the conclusion, politics of by the ruling elite. Now, these same people themselves at the stadium now, opposition leaders in that country.
Look at
what stopped them from protesting against their government?
Now they
Bazoum, so that. This man is not perfecting.
Yes, sir. This we've had in Niger that has, in Nigeria, northern parts of Nigeria. Was that not enough indicate that Nigerians government at home?
You see that part of the Nigeria, that part of the country, the atmosphere was not there. Nigeria constructed leaders have a refinery, some have universities. The Nigerian leaders They have brother in Niger. Is it in that country was not before they went there to go and invest it? The picture they are painting was the picture like that before Nigeria.
Okay, let me pause you. Let Mr. Osune back in now. From the look of things now, us may have a military situation in Niger now as an African, because the military junta extended some Wagner force, and the Wagner force to come for some help, and you as an African it's into something else.
So for I thought of intervention.
Okay.
That by all means pushing to attack in the cause of their personal interest. The Americans have never fought. It's always so. I would Senate should not do any military intervention. Because the Nigerian military, when it comes to mission, because you recall that during the time of he sent a military to the might of the sitting president, and Niger is even in the park for the Nigerian military. Never supported it. It leaves because when we've had military intervention in Africa. At the intervention, the people are themselves and start all. I'm not in support. The Senate should give on any account. The ECOWAS should call the coup plotters to them and see how amicably on, which I think is because they have to actually pit to be able to. So that I think attacking.
Neville, let's go back more time now. Be acting out manner now. You notable Nigerians. Now, this what we hear now is that these people, of course, it is to protect now that this government. The government, and of course, was as the ECOWAS and Nigeria. So, don't you still trying to protect at the expense of you and I?
You see, actually, in assessing the interest of politicians, states of the world is the for instance. Of the civilian and the ruling class, then those who have overthrown, I've seen some of them standing with the military just in the army. Now, interest, the elite that is not presiding over the affairs, they are going members of their cabinet from the civil, as ministers, as a district. It's a research when they leave said parking. And the decision to civil rule, it will still come. The ones that are leaving, the same thing with Nigeria. There's a government in Nigeria, belong to the same elite class. Interest that they are there to promote.
Fourth, this is your earliest. Looking at in this has led to military situations where to be okay. Economically, Niger, I think if we will be talking this day.
To understand.
Yeah.
In 19, there was a military coup. As a result of the coup, Rossi was made head of state. It was, and the issue in Nigeria, second military coup, which it was a counter coup. It was there until 1975 when Muritala Mohammed overthrew the government. Military coup. What was it? Then they added over to in 1983 December, military government came. Overthrew the other military government of the same class. The military going. Or they are becoming a military elite. They are part of the, and they are there to promote the army officers who have written now, police officers, they are all there to. Otherwise, Nigeria will not be the poorest nation of the world. Don't know the progress in the midst of abundances. How do you explain Nigeria is mineral resources, and we have 4 refineries now, or a depot? Let me call it that. Nigeria will not take their crude oil and take outside to go and process at a higher price. Yeah. They'll be talking about subsidy. It does not make sense, but. If it's not, it will not have happened that. And even the central bank NPC, they granted one, built a refinery, and commence operation 50% of the money. Where did you get the money? You get, when I start making profit, I will pay you the business, and I paid you, so I get the money. That is telling the masses of Nigeria they are according to the intelligence, they are unorganized. Nigerians would have been asking questions as much as also billion to establish a refinery. The refinery has not paid you 70% of the money. Where did the person not get the money? It's previous business to come and be borrowed, which has not commenced. You see that it's a little interest. There are examples that we cannot give you guys. Even in America, when we are seeing welfare issue.
There's also elite.
Yes. The reason why they give to America is because they belong to the alternative viral public, counter government on to preserve their place to the people that are likely to. Okay, that's why America and other countries, they believe that they are unintelligent. They cannot in Nigeria, so we can leave them to. Okay. That's why somebody can be telling you if you want to go from here to go from here to Ologbo and spend almost 3,000. I'm going to be giving you because you have 1,000 naira per month for 6 months. So these are the issues. This is even Nigerians. You know, government that have come to. The question is, what is this government going to do that will make their life better? Silence the fundamentalism crisis that their country will not revive the experience, or their country will Sudan or South Sudan that are neighboring Chad.
Yes, you said that it is elite,
yes.
In politics, about the military in politics. Also, elites having interest in what happened in Nigeria. They've been nursing that in. They have been interest to bear. Now, what should theory and all that? So, what all this elite theory? Ordinary people as ordinary. What do we do?
Instead of the military intervention in West Africa, pay more focus. Basically, that is also going on in Africa. If they are able to, when you look at what's happened in our election, presidential election, a lot of persons are angry. They feel unable to a free, fair, and credible. So most of these West African ECOWAS should come out as a body. Let us start on ourselves, giving our ECOWAS come out and say for this election, European Union to take in our elections. Why are they out contain a military intervention to tell us the treatment? I think they should, if they can do that in support of the now, because I believe it's all the same organized coup, or the military. It's not the same thing to the people. ECOWAS should pay more attention to that instead of jumping into trying to protect themselves. Because the first time I heard about, I heard our president when he was made the chairman of ECOWAS. Yeah. The first thing he said, he was going to create a military system comprising all West African military to protect the leaders. So I think that was personally, that's my opinion, that was wrong, because I think that is not the main function of ECOWAS at this moment. That's not the main function. How do we begin to tell our leaders to do the right thing instead of trying to protect them in office? I think that declaration was to protect them, even though they are doing the right thing or the wrong thing. The military will always protect them against military coup. So I was not a fan of that declaration. So it is high time we have people in ECOWAS that goes to this country, make sure that elections are credible, make sure the right people are voted into power, and we'll resolve this military coup.
Okay. All right, so Neville Obakedo, talking about credible elections now, it seems to be a major problem in Africa. All these countries that were having military takeover, they have their own share of what some people call bad elections. Mohamed Bazoum, a lot of persons are not too satisfied with the way he came in. You go to Mali, people are also not too satisfied with the way the ousted president came in. You go to Senegal, you go to even Sudan, that is torn apart by wars, civil war you may want to say. People are still not happy with the way their president, the civilian president came in. So what do we do? 30 seconds as we wrap up now.
What we should do in the first instance is that whether ECOWAS or the African Union, we should be talking about delivering the dividends of governance to our people. I just made mention of the issue of subsidy and all the exportation of our oil to go and be processed and be brought back to Nigeria at an exorbitant price, and we'll be buying fuel, and they'll be telling you that landing cost, export cost, and the rest of them, what we can process in our country here. And we will have illegal refineries that the government is supposed to harness so that we can make them to be legal. And they fail to do so. And that again is elite interest. Now coming to the issue of elections that are not properly conducted. Our own country here, Nigeria, is having what we call electoral act. Electoral act made provision for conduct of election, and that is the implementation of the electoral act, and then crises that go with the election, they are adjudicated in court. I say it now because of the way you made reference to the issue of election and not properly conducted and the rest of them.
Which are the basis of the problem, yeah?
Yes. In the case of Nigeria, every political party is supposed to provide agent in all the polling units and ensure that when there's any rigging there, you can make it known as evidence. You cannot sit down in your house and be waiting for a photograph that will be posted on the internet or Facebook to say, you see, election was rigged illegal, election was rigged in social place. Let your agent of your political party be in every polling unit and report to you directly your situation room, what is happening. And if there's evidence that election has been rigged, you go to court. You go to court and let the court make pronouncement on the concrete evidence, reliable evidence, and the evidence that the court will normally place a premium on its value.
All right. So because of time, gentlemen, I want to say a very big thank you for coming to the program today, Africa Discourse. We'll be looking at the coup in Niger, and of course the deadline that the Economic Community of West Africa States gave that elapsed on Sunday. After 7 days, what is the next thing to be done now? The world is waiting, and the world is expecting a peaceful resolution in Niger, so that the Sahel sub-region doesn't go into war, because Nigeria as a nation cannot afford to be part of any war at this time. Thank you so much, gentlemen, one more time for finding time to come on the show. Well, that's the program today. Until same time and next week, my name is Evan Sunokuge, thanking you for watching. Good afternoon.